Welcome to the Kubus podcast. In each episode, we will be meeting the individuals who can give us real insight into the problems, solutions, and people in our technology industry.
So, hi everyone, thank you for joining our next Kubus podcast. I'm Katy, one of the vendor managers here at Kubus. Today I'm joined by two guests where we're going to talk about the sales team, the growth, how we work with one of our main vendors, Juniper Networks. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to James Banbrook, who heads up our sales team. He's been here quite a while, and Bruce Harrison, who's one of our top client directors. So I'm going to let you both introduce yourselves, tell us a bit about yourselves, how long you've been at the company, and anything else you want to add.
Thank you very much, Katy. So I'm James Banbrook. I'm the sales director at Kubus. I'm responsible for all of the UK number. I've been here for, almost 18 years now. Very long time. I've seen a lot of highs, an awful lot of lows, and there was only a handful of people here when I very first started.
Yeah, well, when Jim joined, I was 11. I've not been here as long as Jim, but I've been here since 2014, so virgin 9 years. Made a progression through from BDR sort of role up to account management, and now client director for a smaller set of accounts.
So as we've both been in the industry long enough, Jim longer, as we've stated, in the last 2 years, especially with everything that's been happening that everyone knows about, I'm not going to go into it anymore, but what changes have you seen compared to 18 years ago when you first started?
I think we need to probably mention the word COVID, because it was certainly a bit of a light bulb moment, I think, for a lot of companies. It certainly forced us to embrace hybrid working. Up until that point, Kubus was very much a work from the office type of company. Now and subsequently, we've let people work far more from home. I think most guys are only in here 2 days a week maximum. And actually, I think it's really helped the general morale. I think it's helped that sort of work-life balance.
Yeah, I think productivity's also gone up. People like myself who work better in an environment with less people around to concentrate is always a good thing. But for me personally, I mean, I had a COVID baby as well, so it was really nice being able to spend time at home, enjoy watching him grow up, and also be able to work flexibly, and the company's been really supportive with that. So it's been interesting times. When I first started 9 years ago, just as Jim was saying, it was 8:30 till 5:30. Those were long hours, sometimes not actually very productive, especially on a Friday afternoon, and you think, well, it's not particularly great for morale, but that was the way it was then, and it was the same for everyone, and I think everyone seems to be a bit happier now with the new work structure, and we can see that in the growth of the business.
So as I said, I've only been here 18 months, so I joined during the whole after COVID period, so I've only really benefited from the hybrid working. Before that, obviously I was in distribution, so I know what it's like with the long hours. I've noticed that the relationship that you have with Juniper specifically is really, really strong, especially compared to where I was in the industry before, looking after Juniper from distribution. I can see the difference. How have you managed to uphold that? How have you kept that going? Has it changed from 2-3 years ago? What makes it strong?
I think it's actually brought us closer together in the sense that when you're put in a situation like COVID, you have to work as a team. It's no vendor, reseller, customer. It's the vendor and the reseller, or the partner, if you like. They need to work in conjunction together to deliver the solution to the customer. And because we can't just go to site because of lockdown and things like that, you need to be on the same hymn sheet and work collaboratively to provide to the customers. And I think understanding what we do and understanding a bit more about how Juniper work has made it easier for all parties, because everything just flows a bit easier. We know what the guys at Juniper have to go through to get quotes approved and build solutions, and equally they know that what our capabilities are and how it's not as easy as just getting an order from a customer. These things, there's lots of moving parts on these orders. We don't just obviously sell Juniper, there's other components to it, and they understand that as well. So I think that's been quite beneficial over the last 18 months or so.
So I think it's extremely important that we become an extension of Juniper's sales team. Juniper trust us to deliver cutting-edge solutions, and the customers also trust us to actually help them roll those out.
I think it was also quite useful during the COVID period where we had weekly calls with Juniper and their account managers and our account managers, so we all bounce ideas off each other. From my perspective, it's really interesting to understand what my peers and the guys at Juniper are doing with other clients, perhaps in different industries, and some of that translates into the work that I'm doing with my customers who are predominantly service provider based.
So would you say then the calls that we currently have in the diary with Juniper, do you think they've come about more so from COVID because that was the only way to communicate?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's obviously been a positive.
Absolutely. I think we already had them regularly, but they weren't set in stone, they weren't dedicated, we didn't take away actions from them all, and I think that certainly has
It's almost being more proactive than responding to, we need to have a call because there's something that needs to be discussed or, covered off. Whereas, having something regular in the diary means everyone's kept up to date. We don't have them chasing us because they need answers to forecast and things like that. So, and it works both ways. So, yeah, it's been really good and kind of solidified the relationship we have with them, and it's continuing to grow.
So in the last 12 months, there has been some big issues across all the vendors that we deal with, one of them being constraint issues, which I think are slightly getting a bit better. What would you say has been your biggest challenges from a sales point of view? How have you managed to help your customers?
I think it's important to be smart using the stock that's available at our distributors. So we're working closely with them to make sure that, stock that might be on a 200-day lead time directly with the vendor, we can perhaps get directly from the distributor in a matter of days or weeks. So it's almost brokering the relationships between all three of us to make sure that we get the solution to the customer as quickly as possible. And yes, in some cases there are going to be constraints, but our distribution partners have been excellent in terms of making sure that the popular items like the MX204s, the QFXs, the SRX range, they're all available and ready to ship, and they've been forward ordering, and that's made the whole process a lot smoother.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think the lead time issue is something that we can't underestimate in terms of the impact generally, and it's across all of the vendors. But what we've seen is the ability to be flexible on your approach, to widen that supply chain into the different avenues available to you, has meant that we've seen some really good results in winning net new logos for both us and for Juniper, things that are coming across as 200 days. We're actually finding that if you're willing to perhaps even just tweak the part code and accept a 48 port rather than a 24 port version, suddenly these things can be in stock and available on a much shorter turnaround.
And that's helping the growth of our customers as well, because that means they can deploy projects much quicker than they would if they had to wait the full lead times, buying directly or using the standard bill of materials.
So talking about products just now, product trends, Juniper have reinstated the MX204s and the ACXs are quite a big thing. What have you found has been a bigger product that you're selling this year than you didn't think that you would be?
Well, certainly Bruce will have a deeper knowledge in the overall trends, but from my perspective, the reinstating of the MX range was, that made up a massive part of our business. So it was an absolute joy to see that back on the price list. It's a very powerful, flexible piece of equipment. So yeah, we were very pleased to see that coming back.
Yeah, I think the 204 is quite unique in the sense that there's nothing really else on the market that competes against it. It offers 400 gig of throughput in a 1U box. So that, especially in the UK where we're not blessed with huge amounts of space like perhaps the States, it's particularly useful for our service provider customers because it doesn't take up so much rack space. So yeah, when it was reinstated, I think that was a big relief for a lot of my customers, especially because they rely on that box and its performance. And obviously, like you mentioned, the ACXs, that's a new portfolio that has kind of been in the Juniper range for a couple of years now, but we're seeing more and more of our customers moving over to that metro router sort of style for the aggregation layer, and it's just proved popular. But I think another thing is probably the software focus. Previously, a lot of our solutions was just essentially box shifting if we go back a few years, but more recently there's a big focus on the software element, so licensing, and that's something that we've had to kind of learn to sell, I guess, and explain to the customer why they need to now buy a license for their kit to work. But I think that's the way the whole industry is moving, and yeah, it seems to be going down quite well.
So is there any other products that you wanted to talk about that customers are buying now then?
Mist is a really interesting product that Juniper acquired a few years ago. When it first came out, I didn't really understand it and how powerful it was. I thought it was just access points, because I didn't really know much about IoT and those sort of areas, and we were just still not box shifting as such, but we hadn't kind of transformed our solutions into what they are now. And then the more we learn about Mist and how powerful it is and how you can use it in pretty much every business and application, it's an incredible bit of kit, and it's not just access points. I mean, you can monitor your network through it, you can monitor pretty much anything. I think the Bluetooth tagging is really smart. One of my customers is looking at it for their farms and the way they can use it on the animals, and it saves a lot of human resource that can be done through AI.
I think you're right. A lot of partners were feeling the same way. It was a very confusing new product. They acquired it. It was still transitioning in. And I think I've seen in the last year, especially being here, the difference that Kubus have changed their mindset around it and how we're selling it. Do you feel the same, Jim?
Absolutely. I think more and more it's now around the customer experience. When I say the customer, it's the user's experience. We're finding a lot of interest in things in the hospitality space, where the people responsible for that sort of fan engagement and the location services element that Mist can offer to decrease wait times and queue analysis. It's a very, very powerful tool and something that we're seeing a lot of opportunities open up on.
And also just to help the engineers who are working on the networks day to day, they can use Marvis to, troubleshoot and find the issues before the user even knows it's an issue, So yeah, it's a really, really powerful tool, and I think that is going to become a bigger part of Juniper than, the traditional networking hardware that, we're all used to seeing and selling.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Wrapping Mist up with the AI-driven enterprise elements of Juniper just makes it very, very powerful.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how Coreo and White Sand develop as well. They're relatively recent acquisitions from Juniper, and I think they'll be quite strong in the marketplace too.
I think it's safe to say as well, it goes across all verticals, which is great because it's one of those products that can sit in any customer. And there's so many different aspects of it that you can talk about, which is great. So finally then, I think it'd be great if you could both tell myself and listeners why Kubus, why do you work here, why do you think customers should buy from us, what makes the sales team, what makes Kubus great, especially for Juniper as well.
So as I explained at the start, I've been here a long time, and it's only now that I am surrounded by a set of people who are so determined to give the customers the very, very best outcome. And that's not just from the sales perspective, that's from credit, sales support, the professional services department. All of them are now very, very customer focused. I'm blessed in that the sales team, I think, happen to be the best around. They know their products. They particularly enjoy selling Juniper, which is extremely lucky. And yeah, we're just going from strength to strength.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think there's a lot of cohesion within the company. We all work and gel very well, and that translates through to our customer service and how we deliver our solutions. I also think the value we add to our customers is that not only can we just provide these solutions, we can help with the pre-configuration, the testing. A lot of my customers don't even see the kit that we provide to them because we stage it for them. We give them access to it here in our tech operations center. They do the work that they need to do, or our engineers do that for them, and then we box it up and ship it globally, and it's done for them. It's a zero-touch process, if you like, and I think that's invaluable for a lot of our customers who don't necessarily have that many engineers to do that kind of work or be taken out of their busy schedules to do basic configuration on kit.
As you just said, the global part is a big part of what Kubus can do that I don't think customers probably know.
So yes, absolutely. We are currently halfway through a global DC consolidation for a customer, which has involved pre-configuring all the equipment downstairs and then delivering it to 7 data centers, ready for our own team to go and actually install.
So the techie guys are getting their air miles up.
They certainly are.
Yeah, a number of our customers have worked with us for over a decade, so that says a lot.
I think the proof in the pudding is that we have the majority of our customers are repeat customers. They keep coming back, and that just says that we're doing a good job.
Well, thank you both for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and do the podcast with me today. And thank you everyone for listening. Keep your eyes peeled for our next podcast in the series, which will be announced really soon.
Thank you for joining us at the Kubus podcast. We hope you enjoyed the chat. Remember, there are more conversations in the series. Just search for Kubus wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe.